Spox are a leading UK and now global company providing custom brand kits, whether that is clothing or socks. They are with you every single step of the way by bringing your idea to light. They exclusively work with fitness communities, business communities in the UK and worldwide. To check out everything that they do, head over to www.spox.uk. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I have, well, let's put it this way, a very powerful guest with us in the Nottingham studio today. His name is Mellors Blair. He's actually born and bred from Nottingham. So this is going to be awesome. It's literally just a short minute drive for him to come here today. Now, we have been friends in business and just life for quite some time now. And I just know already this is going to be a powerful, well, inspirational and value-driven episode for you guys tuning in. Now, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's a multiple founder of AI businesses, which I'm going to let him talk about, but he's been in the pro football game. He's driven so much, and you're telling this episode today he's very passionate about performance, and his businesses and everything that he's been a part of is very inspirational. And I'm just so pumped to actually go beyond the business a little bit and share his story with you today. So, welcome to our studio.
What an introduction. Thank you
tried.
very much.
I tried. So, look, it's a grateful to have you in the studio with us today. Just if the audience are sort of coming in, obviously AI, we know we're sort of getting more aware of that. Obviously, you're a serial entrepreneur. Just if anyone's not sure what that means, yeah, what is a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I'll answer that question by providing a bit of a story.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I was a little boy, I knew that I wanted to build stuff. I wanted to contribute towards humanity and its evolution. I knew that from perhaps a 6-year-old boy. So when I graduated university, I then thought, well, how do I build stuff? How do I contribute towards humanity's evolution? So for me, being an entrepreneur is bringing something into the visible, so making the invisible visible, to contribute towards providing solutions to humanity. So I've managed to do that a few times now in my own world, which we'll talk about. But that's what entrepreneurship means to me. It doesn't mean unemployed. That's what entrepreneurship is to me. It's our ability to make the invisible visible, allowing ourselves to take our imaginations, our desires, and bring them into the world. And when they are aligned to humanity's contributions, meaning pushing us forward, sometimes they come to fruition.
This is great then. When did that come to light for you then, that you knew that I'm a born entrepreneur, I'm on this planet to do this?
Yeah. My mum was raised in the Mellors family.
Right.
And the Mellors family is a legacy entrepreneurship style family. So they've got business from here to the Middle East, UAE, United States, all around Europe in the leisure and amusements kind of industry. Growing up, my mum had 3 companies.
Wow. Okay.
So I watched her as a single mum run 3 companies, just getting it done.
Yeah.
So I think matched with my desire to build stuff and add value, followed by what I was experiencing every day.
Sure.
I think it just was ingrained. So I just knew, I think perhaps 5 or 6 years old, wants to build stuff. And then I guess my life experience then showed me what it is to build, what I need to build.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is great. I love this legacy aspect, obviously looking up to your mom, running 3 businesses, obviously single mom helping you grow up through, I guess challenging times as well. What was the first thing that you built in your entrepreneurial life? I'd love to know. Like, what was that first thing that was like, yeah, that was giving me that like taste for it, really?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So when I was 5, my mum caught me reading a book. And the book was the Oxford English Dictionary. And she said, "William, what are you reading?" I said, "The dictionary." She was like, "Why?" Because I want to know as many words as possible. So the first thing I built was my first, what we call large language models. So we utilize them today. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or similar. They're large language models. So based on an input, you then provide a question or similar, you then get given an output. So I wanted to build that myself, for myself, within myself, right? So that's the first thing I built, was reading over 6,500 books from the age of 5 to 16. translating that into a large language model. So I had as much knowledge as I possibly could have. That's what I built. And I consciously started to build that from the age of 5.
That is so 6,500 books
Six and
read.
a half thousand books.
Wow,
I
that
read 12 books a week from age of 5 through 16. So I think that's 6,300 or 6,500 books.
no,
I should
that's
I should know the exact figure, to be honest. I think it's like 6,534.
is that a superpower? Would you
Uh,
classify it as that?
well, growing up, I was named a child math prodigy
Okay.
at age 6,
Right.
and I'm sure we can talk about that at some point
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
show.
yeah.
But for me, I didn't quite understand what that meant. It just meant my brain processes information in a different way. But then I realized numbers are just one element of information exchange. There must be more, right? So then I thought, well, words are as well as sound, as well as experience and feeling and sensation, somatic connection. But back then I was like, well, how do I sponge as much knowledge as possible? Read a ton. Okay. So if I read, I'm not reading fiction, I'm reading non-fiction, I'm reading like how to do stuff. Then I'm getting more knowledge. That knowledge can then be utilized as wisdom and applied in real life to benefit my own life and then other people's as well. So that's how that that's how it came apart. I don't think it was more of a I think it's a superpower. I think it was my just innate drive to want to build as much knowledge as possible.
Yeah, I think, but just to sort of like people, tuning into this at that young age, right?
True. I
You
get
know,
it.
that's where I'm sort of it's a superpower. But no, you're absolutely right. Like an innate drive. I mean, I know you said your mum sort of ran 3 businesses, but if you can remember, I mean, obviously, I know it's hard as a young kid, but what brought you to sort of have this drive to read so many books a week? Because I mean, consistently and for a long period of time,
Yeah.
which they're 2 things that I've just shared there, which I'm sure you know in the entrepreneurial world. It's hard to do that, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I still read sometimes 1 to 5 books a week now. It's a lot more specialized, but
Sure.
I think back then, I think I was just driven by intelligence, and that's what's governed how I've built my life. It's I want to know. And what I mean by that is I want to know so I can experience. So my thesis as a little boy was if I have more knowledge, I've unlocked more doors. I have access to more dimensions. I'm more informed, might have better skill sets and attributes to contribute towards society. So for me, it was a long term play. It was read now, and when you're reading in the mundane, page by page by page, I knew that this book would be done in an hour. I'll then have my notes for what happened and how I can use the parts from the book into my life. So it was very structured, and I wouldn't really say regimented, but it was definitely structured and succinctly prepared my reading schedule, and it is today.
So you obviously you found a passion for intelligence, right? So from such a young age, was there any role model? Was there anything in your life at that moment that got you to feel that this was something that you wanted to commit to, or was it just sort of like you say inside yourself to just consistently do
Yeah,
it?
yeah. But I don't come from a highly academic family background.
Okay,
My sister's academic. My mum wasn't. My dad wasn't. My grandparents, aunties, uncles, none of them went to university. I knew my brain worked a little bit different at the age of 4 to 5.
what way?
Okay. So I don't mind providing as much context
Yeah,
as I
yeah,
need
yeah,
to here. I've been mentioning this a few times in recent podcasts. So if you picture for a second a hologram, right? So if you picture like a sci-fi movie where the
yeah.
character might have like a holographic experience in front of their face, that's how I interface with the world. So whenever I go out into the world as a little boy, I'd see like, let's say, a mum and a dad. But what I'd see is a holographic experience in front of me as an interface with different formula, different math, different symbology. So that would then be kind of like the equation layer of what was happening in real life. That was the language that I learned initially to make meaning of what was going on. So I think once I knew I was a bit different, once it got labeled at age 6, child math prodigy, I thought to myself, well, my brain is going to be an asset, I think. So therefore, what can I do to bolster my brain capacity? Learn. People call it philomath, polymath, the
Yeah.
lover of learning, etc. Well, that's just always been innate within my being. So I guess it wasn't driven. It wasn't influenced. It was kind of like pulled through me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of understand, and obviously I know you on a sort of a personal level. And I can really tell you're quite visionary as well. Like you see things, or you can sort of vibe off someone and see a future vision as well. Obviously, like talking about the hologram sort of situation there. I think it's quite powerful though that you had that at such a young age. So I've never heard of that term, by the way. See, when you said about the math prodigy, when you was a kid at such a young age, was that? I'm not saying did you get bullied or anything, but what did the school kids? How did you? Because I guess you felt like I don't know, not that you didn't fit in, but I guess it was it challenging. Yeah, yeah,
Was
like
it's challenging today, but I have my own mechanisms to be
okay,
able to interface with human life. So growing up, I was fortunate because from the age of like 5, 6, 7, where I started to kind of realize these gifts, at 8/9 is where I started to play football.
okay,
So I had the mask of the football player. So when I was getting 100% on my math tests, how did you get 100% on this? Like that's impossible. Just lucky. I'd hide because I was a football profile, and being a footballer was cool. Being a nerd back then wasn't really cool. So it was as if I was kind of putting my actual self to the side whilst presenting a version of myself. So yeah, it was challenging, but I found a way to fit in.
via what you just said there,
Football,
football. Okay, so when did football start for you then? What age?
quite late. Didn't come from a footballing family either. I
Right.
started playing football at age 9.
Okay.
I started playing in the playground at age 8. So my first sport was karate,
Okay.
wado, so Japanese style, which was mainly stylistic, mainly defensive. It wasn't aggressive or attacking. It was more grace,
Okay.
more mindfulness, precision. So my former teammate in my playground said, "You should play for my team. You're pretty good." And I was like, "Just playing the playground. Okay, fine." So I went back to my mum and said, "Hey, I want to go play football." She was like, "Really? Like you're doing karate pretty exhaustively. Are you sure?" Yeah. So I ended up playing for Arnold Town,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, a local team,
Yeah.
Arnold Town Yellows, for like 9 months, and then Manchester United popped up and said, "Hey, like, we think you're pretty good." So I was only playing for like 9 months, amateur,
Yeah.
before getting into and then when that happened, I completely became the footballing profile. I forgot about everything on purpose.
Okay. And what I guess obviously you can tell that you're very committed to things. Obviously, you've shown that through reading the books. Obviously, the football was a big commitment. In Manchester United, tell us a little bit about that journey. So you went there when you was how old? 11,
No
9 years old. And how long did you? What was your career like? Was you at United till 18? So what was the age?
Yeah, so, I still remember my initial experience at Carrington. Special place is Carrington, especially when you grew up supporting the team,
Oh yeah, I'm a
just
United fan, so man, I'm all ears. Tell me.
I remember getting out of the car and just seeing Mikhail Sylvester and Rio Ferdinand just walk past me.
Ah,
Yeah, it's came right. You're there like, okay. And then so initially there's a bit of a imposter syndrome,
sure.
but it goes straight away because they make you feel like you belong there. So I didn't feel like I was on trial. I felt like I was just remembering where I was supposed to be. It was interesting. So I was there from 9 through to 14
Hmm.
officially. I
Yeah.
was unofficially there until 16 because I did a few friendlies and whatever. But
Okay.
I signed my scholar at Warsaw at 14. So at the time, Manchester United and Warsaw were like partners, sister clubs, so to speak,
Yeah.
or whatever. So at 14, Gilmore Davis wanted to commit early doors, so I started playing under 18s at 14. So I was at United for what, 5 years?
Wow. And what was the biggest sort of takeaway from being at such a profound club for you at such a young age?
In a statement, I love high performance
Right.
because everything just everything just happened differently at Carrington and at the Cliff. Methodical, on purpose, intention. At that time, it was Sir Alex Ferguson's reign,
Yeah.
and Manchester United were known as Manchester United. Everything you do is you win. It wasn't even a thought. It was, we've already won.
Yeah.
So that mindset you take into how you train your mind, how you train your body, how you cool down, how you hydrate, how you eat food, what time you go to bed, who you hang out with, who you say no to, right? So every single part of my life from perhaps 9, 10 through to 14 was structured to perform. So at that point, I was like, I really like this. That was kind of the beginnings of my journey. You look at the wanting to get as much intelligence and knowledge as possible, plus football, I started to kind of like get to grips of what I think I'm supposed to do in the world.
Okay. So obviously, I mean, I'm just thinking about this. It's great stuff that you're sharing about the sort of, the methodical side of it. Obviously, you read books, you've done a lot of stuff like that. I'm just wondering, how did that transition onto a football pitch? How was your brain working when you're sort of playing on the field with 10 other players with you? Because obviously you're very, I guess, structured, methodical. I just wondered how sometimes, I mean, what position were you striker?
10.
There you go. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be a bit like free flow, it drop in pockets. It's not always, I guess, rigid. If you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So I just wondered how you dealt with that with such an intelligent mind.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, my love and my gift for mathematics transcended into football. So what I used to do is I used to build a mathematical model based on my opposition, and I used to build individual mathematical models based on the players. So, for instance, as the captains were doing the toss, I would just walk and observe, and I'd see the structure of the team, the formation. I'd look at how they're breathing. I'd look at how their posture is. So I'd build basically like two models, one for each individual player, and then one for the actual team itself. I'd then have a profile. So based on the profiles, I'd know who fancies it today, who don't want to be here today, who wants to run, who's slow, who's fast, who's fit, who's a leader. So I'd build that framework first, and then during the game, I'd spend the first 2 minutes just watching space, pattern recognition, pattern recognition. All of a sudden, like you said, in pockets, oh, I've watched that picture 3 times now, and he always does that when he does this. Therefore, I'm going to go here, and here might be that line between the defense and the midfield. Turn, goal, assist, goal. That's how I got good at football, was being able to see space before space became
Yeah.
available. So that's where kind of the intelligence came with the football, was work operating off the cuff for any kind of formational demands. As you know, being a former footballer yourself, you get to kind of the 14, 15, 16, you get put into a box. And then when you do your scholarship, that's your education, you learn this position. So unfortunately, when I got to like 14, 15, I became more of a winger than a 10. You know, you're quick, get the ball, beat him on the outside.
Yeah.
I became a box, and I don't operate like that.
So it's sort of like that was a moment in your life where change was needed. Obviously, Warsaw was your club. I can obviously really tell, and I'm sure the audience sort of watching this can see that. Yeah, you're obviously steps ahead. That's the way your brain sort of works. Like we were just saying about the space and the creation aspect, and you're quick. You're very proactive mindset wise. So when you moved over to Warsaw, obviously in your YTS scholarship, you're 14, you're stepping up to, well, you're playing with 17, 18-year-olds.
Mhm.
What was that experience like? Because that must have been, again, did that imposter creep back up? Did you feel that sort of, you don't fit in here? Because, you're a young boy
Yeah.
initially, aren't you, at that
Well,
stage?
if I'm honest, I'm at the point in my life now where I'm being open about pretty much everything. I got bullied, mate. I got bullied.
Really?
So here's what happened. I had this whole kind of name around the club as the lad at United, and there was a few lads that kind of did the Warsaw United thing, but it became publicity. The BBC got hold of it. BBC West Midlands. So
Right.
on the day of our media day, the BBC came to see me. It was like massive film crew, and as everyone's doing their individual photos, I'm doing media. That interview then came out the next day on BBC West Midlands, and some of the players saw it. The next day, from the rest of my experience at Warsaw, every day was kind of like, "Who do you think you are? You got better chances of getting in the first team here, have you?" Kind of thing. Because the way the BBC portrayed it was former Manchester United player turned down Derby, Leicester, and Forest for Warsaw. So my peers were basically like, "Well, if you're that good, why are you here then?" And that was the energy that I felt for the next 2 years, 3 years, which made me want to
Mhm.
go within myself and not shine because I'm not quite liked at the moment. So that it was quite a lonely experience, if I'm honest, looking back at it. Grateful for it. But before that all happened, under 14s, Mick Halsall, who was our head of youth, he had complete faith in me. He happily put me in U18 games at 14. 14, 15. I was playing 3, 4 years above myself all the time, pretty much. So I had the belief from him, but then when I got into the actual environment, full-time environment, a bit of the hate came in, and that was difficult. I used to cry myself to sleep often. That happens often for most scholars, most players who are looking to progress, and it becomes their identity becomes the footballer.
Well, I mean, not to sort of take away from you, well, but I can completely resonate with that. Completely. I had a similar experience when I was at Rotherham. I left 3 months into the YTS and I cried on the phone to my dad. I got bullied as well for asking questions. I
Wow.
mean, but yeah, I can completely relate to that. I think it's nice that you're being quite open
Oh,
about it
yeah.
because I think obviously there'll be many, and I'm sure there'll be parents watching this as well that, you know, daughters or their sons in football or wanting to be this professional footballer. And like I say, it can all look very good on the external, but internally, behind the scenes, environment wise, can be challenging. So, did you find yourself then in that period when you were being bullied and people saying, "Oh, who do you think you are? Why here?" Did you did you go inside of yourself then, or did you sort of stand up and perform? What did you do in that moment?
Yeah, so this is where the mask firmly got placed on my face. And what I mean by that is show no emotion to the crowd, and then when you go home, let it all out. And
Mm,
that's what moves people towards implosion within themselves, is you're not expressing who you actually are. So me, back then, I was part egotistical, insecure little boy slash really cool, genuine, kind-hearted human being. But I'd find myself going from one version to another. So when I go into the changing rooms, the club, just pretend to be this very cool, you know, ego-driven, don't really care, popular being. That
mm.
was the archetype that I found myself embodying, and that protected me a little bit. Because if my teammates knew how I really felt, they'd lean in more,
Yep.
right? If they know it's affecting you, they're gonna push that a bit further in, you know? So I turn up every day as if it didn't affect me. But then I'd go home to my digs. As you know, digs, you're living away. I was the only person who wasn't from Birmingham. So I lived alone. Everyone else lived with their
Yep.
parents. There'd be times where I'd just go home and just cry all night. Happened often, crying myself. I remember vividly, I could viscerally feel the sensations of crying myself to sleep one night, not wanting to go to train the next day. That was difficult, but it's all part of your life experience, isn't it?
It is. It is. But again, obviously, I sort of understand. Was there anyone in that period of where, you was holding it all in that you could vulnerably or openly talk to? Or did you just keep it all to yourself?
I think looking at it, I think my mum would have been able to have a dialogue, but God bless my mum's soul, she wouldn't have been able to have an emotionally available and intelligent conversation because her generation, especially from her kind of business world, just crack on, just get it done. And that's what I embodied, which is why I had this whole protective mechanism for myself. But looking back at it, I probably had mum to have a conversation with, perhaps my sister, but there was no understanding back then of the internal game. It was kind of like everything's fine, like just crack on.
So that's what you were sort of telling yourself in those moments.
Yeah.
And so you didn't speak at that time, then you didn't speak to anyone about it?
No, dude.
Not even any of the players?
No.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't have any friends there. There was no
Right.
friends.
Okay. So that must have been a really so you went there how old was you when you went to Warsaw?
He initially went at 14, but
S
I'd go train with them before I signed my
Yeah,
scholar.
yeah. So but you was there 14, did your YTS for a couple so you was there 4 years?
4 years.
Oh, that must have been a lot of sort of weight
Yeah.
you was carrying to sort of get through.
Year 1 was pleasant. Year 2 was just heavy. Year 3 heavy. Year 4 heavy. And especially year 4, because year 4 I did my ankle pretty bad.
Mm.
But no, I was basically with the first team. My first year scholar, I was with the first team all the time. The goal was to get me into the first team.
Yeah.
That was the whole project. That's why I signed my scholar so early. But then I got injured really badly on my right ankle. I was out for like 16 weeks. The doctor said you should have broke this. It would have been easier to fix. So I missed game after game after game. It gets to decision time. You know you're not going to be offered a contract. That's what's difficult, is when you've been building up for something for so long. forgot about everything, sacrificed everything, minimal childhood, and you're like, this is it, and then you get released, and the reality sink in. Fortunately, gratefully, I knew that academics would always be a part of my life, and that football would be just a part of the journey versus the journey itself. So I was quite fortunate to have built kind of an infrastructure, a structure, as a foundation for when football ended, which it didn't end then. I still had a career,
Mm.
but it didn't become like the main source of my life journey.
Yeah. So well, obviously, even from a young age, right? You'd built those models, that infrastructure. You didn't solely know. I guess the football sort of took you on a different path, but you still had a foundation to, I guess, lean back on. What would you say to any, like from your own personal experience, to any sort of aspiring footballer
Mm.
at any age? Because obviously you started a bit later. What would you say to them? Not to be, you could even say what to be aware of, or what to sort of focus on that could possibly give value to their journey. What would you say if you could do a statement?
Yeah, so I think this is quite universal. Focus on building yourself as a human being, where a footballer is a part of that. I think identity is everything. And I think that if you believe yourself to be just a footballer, everything aligns to that fact. So, for instance, if you had a good day at the training ground or good session, you might feel good. If it's the opposite, you might feel bad. So, therefore, as a footballer, as part of your human experience, who else are you? You might be a son. Okay. What does it mean to be a son? You might like art. Okay. You're an artist. Okay. You like music. Okay. Brilliant. So you've got all these things that you are good at and you like and that lights you up. Great. Entertain all of them as part of your human experience where football is one of the priorities. So it's kind of like diversifying your portfolio versus investing everything into one asset. That's my best advice. And I give that advice on a weekly basis to
I
clubs.
know. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really, really good because I think, well, as we know, football as a lifespan. Generally, you can't be at the top of your game, or even at a certain top. We were talking about this off air, weren't we? About you'd signed for a step three club, and you'd soon realise the life and direction and path that you're on now is not suited to that anymore.
Yeah.
Yet there's going to be a decision, even in your early 30s or late 20s, or even early 20s, depending on
Yeah.
anything could happen, where there's got to be something outside of football. So that what you said there, I think is so good. What happened for you then when football? I wouldn't say that you wasn't going to make it, but when that feeling started to weigh on you, that like, okay, I've got to build something probably outside of football now. What was that like for you?
Yeah. I remember sat in the Bescott Stadium the day of the decisions, and our manager at the time was Dean Smith,
Okay,
who was in Brentford, Villa. He's at Charlotte FC now, I believe, in MLS. Sat in front of him with John Whitney, the assistant. Look, everyone knows that you were supposed to get into the first team. That was a project, but you've been injured all season, and we don't see any way forward. So we're not offering you a professional contract. At that point, life slowed down and stopped. And I went into the stadium and called my mum. I said, "Mum, been released." She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I've been released." She was like, it didn't compute in her head
okay.
because for so long, every meeting with the club has been about, okay, here's your pathway. Here we're going to this week, you're going to be the first team. So it was always intentional with me at Warsaw, my experience. But then, for instance, then the rug got pulled. At that point, I remember vividly looking out into the empty stadium, like, "Okay, what's next then?" And my mum said to me, "Well, what's next, son?" I said, "I don't know just yet." At that point, I remember her getting like a sensation. I was like, "Oh, academics." So the academics kind of became very dominant in my psyche. But then it was like, well, I like football. Academics? Football. Hmm. So I started to kind of like create a new equation. If X is fulfillment, what is what are the factors, what are the variables to find fulfillment? And the two keywords were athletics, academic. But then came America.
I was just going to say, I was adding it in my mind
Yeah.
because even I had gone down that route. I didn't decide to do it. When did a sort of opportunities arise from that then?
When I first got released, I signed just to play semi-pro. I think it was step 4 in England. Got myself a job.
What was
Mm,
you doing?
It's interesting. I did a bit of mathematical modeling for Eon,
Okay.
part of a contract here. It was so niche.
That sounds very
It
niche.
was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool. I shouldn't have been in that environment because I didn't feel qualified for it, but I had this skill set which we'll talk about at later points in the show. So when I was working, thought, well, I don't want to just have this UK grind, try and climb the ladder mindset. I want to exercise my brain now. So I then got offered a full scholarship to go to university in the States, went to University of Michigan, for that a quick stint at Georgia State University. But there is where I became very aware of what I could possibly do in this world. I started to be surrounded by minds and students and athletes who were world class, genuinely world class. So I thought to myself, okay, well, if this is my environment, let's go for it. So
Mm.
yeah, full time football, full time student.
What was you studying?
You ready for this? Just kidding. Quantum mechanics, quantum computing, mathematical sciences, data science, epigenetics, computational neuroscience, artificial intelligence,
Okay.
finance. Yeah, yeah,
A lot of stuff.
a ton of stuff.
Yeah. That's good though. That
A ton of stuff.
But you know what? I mean, full scholarship.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Because not just saying that from going through the process, and maybe some of the audience may relate, that is not easy to do.
yeah, I know
Okay. So
that.
they must have seen a lot of talent in you academically,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Students to do well, but also talent in terms of the athletic side. So I can probably imagine that the Americans were very go well, like proper pumping you up. So it
yeah.
gave you that sort of, from you leaving that environment from Warsaw where everyone was sort of, who do you think you are?
Mate, it was
Battering you down those 3 heavy years to then go out there. I bet that was such like a reinvention part.
refreshed.
Yeah.
Well, I was offered full scholarships to go to Oxford, Cambridge. I was leaning towards Cambridge, but I had a thought, and I thought to myself, I want to change countries. I want to get out of the United Kingdom. I want to kind of shift it up
Yeah.
completely. So when I got over there, you're right. It's very enthusiastic. You know,
The
a
American dream.
freshman from
Yeah.
William Mellors Blair. Like that's just the energy you get
Yeah. Yeah.
from the place. Obviously, I didn't have a full spectrum experience of the United States. So I can't generalize too much, but where I was in Michigan, it was, I mean, the keywords of the university, leaders and best. The slogan was win, win, win.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you were basically indoctrinated to like be the best version of yourself.
Okay.
As you walk around the campus, you see like leaders and best, win for Michigan, win, win, win. Like the
Okay.
team, the team, the team. So that team feel, both in the classroom and on the pitch, was refreshing. It
I
felt
can
like a
imagine.
family
Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously you had the complete opposite.
fighting every day to being accepted and being respected and being recognized and, able to shine my light for the first time without feeling like I shouldn't.
Okay. So when was that moment for you then where you felt like Will is coming back? The light's shining
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. Well
Yeah.
said. It was during my visit to Michigan. So I remember my visit, whenever they're recruiting you, they always send you on an official visit. They fly you out,
Okay.
business class. It's a beautiful experience I had. And when I got off the plane, the head coach met me at the airport. It was freezing cold. Bought a massive Michigan jacket. Like, it was minus 20. So can you imagine the size of this jacket? As I put it on, and as we're driving around campus, I'm like, okay, interesting. So at that point, that's where the light flickered. I thought, oh, okay. So it was during my official visits that it happened. And when I kind of started term in January, it was like I could then, put more fuel onto this fire, which I did.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a good experience that you shared there, because obviously, I guess, handing that coat to you, feeling like, we're taking you under our wing, we're going to look after you, Will, we've got your back. I think is probably them not knowing what you just experienced for the past 3 years was so warming and connecting for you. So let's fast forward sort of, I mean, obviously that's 4 years scholarship. You came out with a qualification, because this is another thing again, like, it's 4 years, but then it's like, that there's a deadline,
Yeah.
or
What's next?
what happened next for you after this experience in Michigan?
Yeah. So I was quite conflicted because I was supposed to be drafted
Right.
into the MLS.
Oh,
So I had a few conversations with a few clubs in the MLS. I actually went to the New England Revolution for a month because they were considering drafting me. And I remember not getting drafted. Went to the coach's office. He said, "Hey, the Vancouver Whitecaps, Chicago Fire, their second team want to offer you a deal." And I just thought, no, I want to go back to England. I want to go back to England. So I still wanted to do academics or something intellectually driven and also continue playing football. So I came home. I signed for an agent in England. Went to Boreham Wood first, National League, just to train for the rest of the season. Then I played for Notts County the season after. But at this time, work-wise, I started to be headhunted a few times. So the NHS, the UK government, Public Health England, Google, Salesforce, loads of big public and private institutions started to recruit me to help them bring their data together or to provide them with a thesis, with a vision of how they could leverage their data to drive better performance. I call it performance intelligence. So how can you use your data, which is driven by people utilizing platforms? How do you take all of that data and provide protocols for company leaders, managers, with now athletes and staff of athletes? How do you provide protocols to increase performance, to improve productivity? So I got headhunted a few times doing that privately. So I was playing football, kind of pro League Two, National League level, but I knew that building stuff was going to be where my life work is done. I knew football had a finite kind of time left. I knew the time of playing football was running out, and I knew that because of how I felt. Driving to training, not really having that excitement. I don't really want to go today. For me, that's an indication of some things transitioning out, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I remember signing a deal at Solid Shirt.
I'm playing against your club.
I didn't feel any emotion. There was no like, oh, amazing.
Okay.
There was no nerves. There was no nothing. It was just flat. And that was when I was 25. That was when was that? 26, 17 or 2018-19 season. Yeah, 18-19 season it was actually. And after that, I thought something's wrong. So at that point, I was open to the idea of football not being a part of my life for too much longer. I became aware of the fact that it might leave soon. And I was okay with that. And that was when I was 25.
I mean, at mid-20s, obviously for you you're in the prime of your career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people have been saying. I know, even myself, I'm like, you're not even at your best sort of thing, like 28, 29, 30, normally at your peak,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're heading towards that. And you had this feeling. Oh, you can't change that.
You
It's just the
can't.
feeling you had.
Yeah.
But just as like because I want to get into sort of the serial entrepreneur life now and stuff like that. But just as like a final sort of closure on this with football, what has been the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself from being a footballer that's taken you into this new life?
Yeah. I am wholeheartedly resourceful. And what I mean by that is I wasn't raised in an environment where money was easily attained. Yes, my mum came from a legacy entrepreneur family, but the dynamic of the family meant that she didn't have access to any of her inheritances, lines of credit. So I was raised to think that I couldn't afford stuff. So when opportunities for football came around, oftentimes it's, oh, I need to get there for travel, or I need some boots, or I need something, or I need this. So anyway, I found a way to make it all happen, partly because of my own initiative, but also with being resourceful, knowing who I need to ask, or can I go and speak to that coach about doing this? So I always found a way with football, regardless. So my level of resourcefulness, that is.
I think that's really interesting what you shared there because I haven't really heard that answer before, but I still believe just what you shared already that you'd built up a very strong infrastructure, even though football became a big part and then that sort of got left behind, but you sort of come back to that in a way. But I think just the way that you been through this lonely period as well, and this is what I want to sort of talk about going into the entrepreneur world because I think that word lonely comes up
Mm,
quite a lot. That sort of mask comes up quite a lot. For you, being a founder, setting up and creating these businesses, I guess. What have you instilled in you and the team that you've sort of hired or the people that you collaborate with to make it high performing success? I'd just love to know that. Like, if
Yeah.
there's anything you could share from behind the scenes.
I read a book years ago by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap.
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So, we have 4 zones, right? Incompetence, competence, excellence, and genius. I believe that we are all geniuses, and it's about then aligning your people, which are your main assets, including yourself, to their genius. Why would I do something I'm incompetent at when that person's excellent and it becomes easy for them? So that's what I did initially, was how do I align myself and those around me to their genius? Because if everyone's operating from excellence to genius, that's what the output's going to be. Again, it was a hypothesis. I've gone on to demonstrate that. So that's the first thing, is what's everyone's genius, including mine? What are the desired outputs? And then everything underpinned by health, vitality, well-being, right? Being able to perform means being able to perform, right? This is what's backwards these days in the business world. I have faith that it can transform, but as humans, we don't have infinite amounts of energy. At a cellular level, mitochondrial level, sure, we've got enough energy right now, even if you're depleted, to light up a whole street for a week, right? But at a physical vitality level, we don't have so much energy. So if we are bombarded with work and stuff every day, back to back, 8, 10 hours a day, how is that productive? It's not productive. So I've, through my experience, redefined what productivity means, what performance actually means for me, and also for elite sports teams, and also.
So obviously you've had a lot of learned experience. I like the zones because I think, yeah, the zone of excellence, zone of genius, all that stuff. I think that's great that you sort of find where people are and then you sort of align and come together. I think that's really important because that's team.
Team.
Again, obviously you experienced that when you was out in the States.
Mhm.
So you found that team drive, all of that sort of plastered everywhere, which again, this connects really well. So for you though, you've just spoken about productivity. Obviously, I know in sort of the business world, burnout's quite it's a thrown around word, but it happens, people experience it. I'm guessing then how you now know the who and the how part to create the high performance in these organizations. I guess you've been on the other side of that. Has there been moments in your entrepreneurial path at the moment where you felt unproductive, where you felt that you're not performing at your best? And just if there's anything you can share, because obviously we can always put out the glam and, "Oh, I've just set up this new business," but actually it can be pretty
Mm.
intense and
Yeah.
not going to all behind the scenes.
I think as human beings that live in the West, we're so domesticated to believe that we should always be busy. And that was the mindset I adopted once I graduated. It was, okay, I need to make sure that from 5 until midnight, so 5 a.m. until midnight, I'm doing stuff. I need to make sure my learning's in there, my emails are in there. Like, I just block out every day, Monday through Sunday. Right. There was one period of my life where I was working 120 hours a week for months on end. I remember vividly this. Right.
What was it all for?
Exactly this question. What was it all for?
Okay.
Right. Because I realized that's not productive.
Yeah.
So to come back to your point about when did you not feel productive? I felt the most unproductive when I was doing more.
Yeah, get
So
you.
then my question to the audience, and I ask myself the exact same question every day. I'll ask everyone in the room today, what's the one thing that needs to be done today? Oftentimes, if you tick off the one box, happy days, it becomes a
Yeah.
domino. Because oftentimes we wake up to a back-to-back schedule and we're like, well, I don't really want to do this today, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'll grind through it. You know, this meeting, ugh. If you then strip it back to what's one thing that I need to do today, block out one deep work session for 90 minutes. If you'd like to work silently or with music, bang on your headphones, press go on 90 minutes and just do that one thing. And oftentimes we do the one thing. It's like, that's done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa. So now I've done that. That's now the content done for the whole week. Okay. So you become more clear on what needs to be done. Keyword needs to be done. Because oftentimes we think everything needs to be done. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
See, I love this, and we hear this. It's like the book, The One Thing, like focusing on one thing. People know this, right? Gets drilled in. So, what do you think the reason is that people don't follow that,
Yeah.
even though that they know like less can be more? Productivity wise. but they still have a,
Yeah.
to-do list as long as they're on 32 tabs open on their Mac. What do you think that reason is?
Yeah. I mean, I know it from a brain standpoint. So it's a kind of a foundational feedback loop in the brain that just goes over and over and over again. So when people want to change, they don't change. It feels uncomfortable. Therefore, they go back to a kind of a dominant feedback loop, which is, oh yeah, just leave that. Yeah, I'll just keep adding tasks. To move towards change or any kind of growth, you have to be willing, keyword willing, to be uncomfortable. So, for instance, if you know, and the science is there, that one thing a day is going to make you productive, just do it. Do it for a week. Do
Yeah.
it for a day. Just do it once. And then you can reflect on it. Well, how was that experience? Well, for those 90 minutes, I felt in flow, felt clear, got it done. Okay, amazing. So that can be done again. You can replicate that. Then it becomes choice. I used to spend so much time trying to convince people to do other things to make them more productive, more performing, whatever. But I realize if the individual isn't willing to be a bit uncomfortable to get to that level of growth, then it's a waste of my time.
Okay. Okay, this is good then. So what have you found then has been your key ingredient to sort of the success of your
Mm,
ventures that you're currently running?
clarity.
Okay.
That was a very easy response from me. See,
Where does
imagine
that come from though? Where does the clarity come from?
inquiry. It comes from stillness. It comes from introspection. So let me provide some more context. I've been meditating for 12 years. I first started meditating to hide from anxiety. It was a bit of a mask. But over time, I realized that actually, the more still I am and able to just literally be, either eyes closed or eyes open, regardless, as I become still, I allow more in. Oftentimes, when I allow more in, so it might be a new thought, a new idea, because I'm not busy with stuff. As I became still, as I then kind of pondered on what do I want to achieve next quarter? What does success look like for me this month? Okay, it's October now. What do I need to achieve at the end of the month? As you become still, you get answers. And then those answers oftentimes are inspired. You feel excited about them. It's not like, oh, I've got to do this to do this. It's that feels quite good. So that's self inquiry. That's introspection. I do that all the time. I've been doing it for over a decade now. And what happens is in those quiet times where I get answers, I then have clarity. I then know what to do. I'm then not because one of the things that I used to do in my old kind of entrepreneurial life was I used to think everything was hyper important. I'd finish my day feeling burnt out, feeling like I've been productive, but actually there's no needle been moved. Nothing's been done. So therefore, how clear am I on what I need to do? So when I got to the realignment of, okay, well, here's where I want to move towards. One step back. What needs to be done this week? What needs to be done today? Some days you might only have one thing to do, but because you've done that one thing, you've had your healthy meals, you've gone for your walk, you've had your gym session, you've done your meditation, your journaling, whatever it is you do your routine. What a great day. What a great day. Just because you've done one work task doesn't mean you're not productive. Well, depends on what the task is.
Yeah, I think it's really insightful what you shared there because there was a lot of things sort of going through my mind. I mean, sort of things that I took away there was things like, noise, chaos, in the mind, busy. You talk about we want to be busy, like say you're talking about the Western thing of being busy all the
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
But that stillness, that, slowing down, less is more sort of thing. It's where that, yeah, that sort of moment comes. Oh, okay, and now, like say, your clarity over confusion. It's interesting because I've obviously had people over the other side quite a few times, and they obviously immerse themselves in different environments. Like say, you obviously meditate. There's people taking regular sort of circuit breakers, if you want to
Yeah,
call it,
yeah.
to sort of find themselves or find something that they really want to focus on. If for you now moving forwards in your sort of journey of entrepreneurship, what's something that you firmly want to continue to commit to continue this momentum that you're on?
Continue to me.
Right.
Continue my personal development. Oftentimes we get to an achievement or a milestone and we kind of say, and we just kind of sit in that comfort. That is a nightmare for me. The idea of achieving something and then that's it. So my commitment to myself is to develop myself daily. so that I am better for myself, for my ventures, for my investors, advisors, my friends, family, right? For those around me. So that's my commitment, is to continue my personal development every single day, unapologetically.
I like that. So, what does an ideal look like then? What does an ideal day look like, should we say, in Will Mellors Blair's
I think I'm living
life?
it now. I
Yeah.
think I'm living the life that I designed a decade ago. And I was thinking about this morning in the gym. So the ideal life for me now, I guess my morning routine's
Yeah,
pretty
of
ideal for me at this point.
course.
Obviously, day to day is different, but morning is pretty standardized. 5 a.m. wake up. Sometimes that's 4:40 if I'm awake, ready to
Mm.
go. As I wake up, I feel my brain go from not delta, but theta to alpha beta to beta. So I don't move until my brain's woken up. Oftentimes we have alarms and it electrifies us to get awake and we rush and it's like, oh my God, breakfast, toast, shower, kids quick. Would never work like that. So me, if my alarm goes off at 5, fine. It's a very pleasant alarm. Stop. I just listen to it and I just like stay still and I allow for things to happen. And then as I feel awake, okay, great, cold shower, meditate for half an hour, journal, bit of chess formation. I play chess.
Okay.
Yeah, I play chess.
What, just online, you mean, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
online.
okay. Yeah.
I used to be a chess champion years ago. I'm bringing it right back full circle.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a mixture of vitality. Sometimes I'll fast, cold water exposure, meditation, mindfulness, getting very clear on that one day, and then by the time I think I'll go to the gym spa, all before like 8 o'clock. And when it hits like 8/9, obviously UK time, shop doors open. At
Okay.
that point, I'm just experiencing the world. I might have 1 or 2 tasks, 1 or 2 meetings, but I like to leave space in my diary for things to emerge.
That's good. So it's not like by every hour.
Used to be.
Yeah, used to be.
Used to be from 5 a.m. until midnight. I'd
Yeah, you
have
said that. Yeah,
my
yeah.
calendar was just different color blocks. And as soon as that, for instance, if I had a task to finish and I've got like 1 minute until my next task, I'd like get stressed. Oh my God, it's not finished. And I go to the next task knowing that that task hasn't been fulfilled. Or messy.
Yeah, I can imagine it, and it can also messy, but also quite overwhelming. But
Yeah.
so for you then, in this, obviously you've been an entrepreneur all your life, right? What has been the biggest setback for you in all of this? What is there? Is there a moment where you was like, maybe I'm not quite out for this. Maybe this is my time up, and I've got to look elsewhere.
I think when my mum passed away, she passed away in 2022, February, and it wasn't unexpected, but it happened, and it happened at a time where I was in a transition from one apartment to another. My partner at the time became pregnant. I had to deal with them, the funeral and all those logistics. At the time as well, we're moving through an investment round, which then stalled. So I had to kind of tell 10 people that, only for the next 2 months I can pay you for the research we're doing. So at that time, it was just like all the stuff
Yeah.
just happened too into 2023 was wild. It really, really was like absolutely gnarly. The
Mm.
Americans would say gnarly.
Uh,
That dystopia now, what I was experiencing. So that kind of was a domino effect. What I found pretty catastrophic at the time was where's the respite? There's no relaxation from this. And I think it was that time that taught me if ever anything happens, because it was like 10 things at once, literally. So now when one thing happens or two things happen, it's like, okay, what needs to be done? Because I know what the fight and flight sensation feels like. And I don't like it. I like feeling calm. Regardless of what's happening, I like operating effectively. And for me, effectiveness is when I'm at peace. When we're impulsive and when we're stressed, we don't make good decisions. We don't operate optimally. And when we're so used to making decisions as humans living in the West, that's what we do is make decisions. I haven't wanted to be depleted in that decision making because I know what that felt like during those couple of years of having to make decisions, though you couldn't sometimes get out of bed. Pretty difficult. So that's the biggest setback, I think, was the family transition, having to then focus on a new life when I'm actually grieving and mourning,
mm.
trying to do investor relations to keep 11 people in an organization doing research. So like Everything was for me though. It helped me grow.
Sure.
I look back at it with reverence. I don't look back at it as with regret. It's like it helped shape who I am today.
Definitely. I mean, just a lot there. Like you was talking about other people that relied on you. Obviously, your mum passed. You kind of knew about that, but then obviously, partner at the time
Yeah.
was pregnant. Obviously, you've got a beautiful daughter now, Ola. Again, that's a massive sort of life change. Um, just as like a bit of a summary of all that, because obviously there's so much could unpack there. What I know, a setback, there's always a learning,
Of
isn't there? There's
course.
always sort of something that it carries with you. What's been the biggest sort of learning through those couple of years now coming into this present moment now?
So I mean, you answered my question with the last thing you just said. Be here now.
Okay.
Stay in the moment. We're so focused on what's next. You know, oh, I'm looking forward to a holiday, or at the end of Q4, I want to achieve this revenue. But we're always focused on the next.
Yes.
And I realize now that all we have is now. Nothing else exists until the next moment. And then it's still now. And the next moment, it's still now. So therefore, the past, the present, the future, it's all just now. So when that really dropped, when that penny really dropped for me, that's all I do. So now, for instance, living in space, I might watch my daughter play or, draw something, or I might just go for a walk around the embankment, the canal. All of a sudden, like those now moments are so precious because when you're peaceful, when you're clear, when you're operating now, it's like this beautiful morphology of life just happens and things feel a bit easier. Opportunities seem to arise out of the blue. And I think as human technologies, which we are, right? And maybe in a year's time, if I come on again, we can break down
Yeah, yeah.
my research because I'd love to talk about it. As a human technology, we function through energy, frequency, and vibration. So when we are, and this has now been codified, the codex suggests if we are operating from grief, shame, we're vibrating at a very low frequency. Therefore, our experiences are likely to be of the same nature. So like a mirror is what life is. But on the flip side, if you're vibrating from a frequency of peace, excitement, love, that's also the environments you bring in. So I think overall, having the setbacks, having the learnings and the silver linings, and now the application of that knowledge is wisdom. It's be here now. That's all you have. Nothing
Mm.
else exists.
I love that. I love that. Obviously, you shared a bit of your intelligence there again, well, with us, which we could have easily got into.
Mastering my life means being at peace in moments and not needing to change the moment. So what that means for me is imagine for a second a car cuts you up. You have two options. You can be the road rage individual. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Or you can just be like, the first version is not mastering your life. Second version is because you're allowing something to happen, but you're not then reacting to what's happening. You're at peace with it. And that happens regardless of scenario. That's not saying don't be excited, don't feel sadness, don't feel pain. Feel all the feelings, but then respond from a new perspective. So that is what that means to me. It's being at peace with what happens in life and not needing to change what's happening. Peace.
Yeah, peace. I really like that. So, thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
I like the analogy as well. So, if people who are watching or listening back to this episode want to connect with you, where is the best place for them to do that?
LinkedIn, that is the place. Just type in Will Mellors Blair on LinkedIn. Come and connect. Let's chat. That is where I post very frequently. Everything health, economics, everything productivity, performance, insights.
Yeah, I see it,
Um,
man. I see it. All that. It is your hub. It's your home. It's your place. But
yeah, yeah,
I love what you share on there as well. Well, look, we'll ensure that obviously goes in the notes for you to just click and connect with you, and even drop you a message and
absolutely.
connect with you. So, final from me, man. Like, obviously, I've loved having you in. I'm so glad you got to experience our new look as well. You was
Yes,
the first one in.
first
We're
one.
working and playing with it.
Yeah.
So it's been an absolute pleasure, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you very much, mate. Take care.
Thank you.